a lot of people that are successful, they have very high standards. They have high standards for themselves, who they work with, who they surround themselves with, in every area of life. So, the answer is both. We each have our own secret recipe to create success, but we also have a lot of commonalities in other areas.
My name is Andrew Smitte.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Successful Smitte podcast. I have a super awesome guest here today. His name is Cory Budovitch. Cory is the founder and president of Budovitch Legacy Planning, which is a niche financial advisory firm which focuses on removing the key erosion factors of wealth. Cory has qualification numbers of the MDRT, top of the table for the last decade. He's been the top in his agency of 10K brokers who does multiple 6 to 7 figure premiums on an annual basis, and he's done one of the largest cases in Canada for insurance. So, Cory, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Andrew. Great to be here with you, buddy.
Awesome. So yeah, Cory, tell us a little bit more about yourself or anything I might have missed.
Well, myself, there's a lot to myself. I tend to be, I can be sort of complex, yet limitless. You did a pretty good introduction there. Things that are important to me are my kids. I'm a father of 4 beautiful children. My fiance Tabitha, who's had an incredible impact on my life. My family, and friends. I'm someone that likes to learn and grow a lot. So I spend a lot of time and energy focus on those things. So.
Awesome.
I love to golf. I love to compete in everything I do. So that would be another thing about me.
Awesome. So yeah, I know one thing whenever I think about you is you're someone who loves to win, and you're really freaking good at it too. And so I want to talk to you, like, what does winning mean to you?
Well, winning will be different for everyone, right? For me, it means getting an end result, right? Getting the result that I want. So in order to get that result, you have to know what you want to begin with, right? So what I try to do to get that result is to have an intention, specific intention in each task that I do in every area of my life, to understand what that intention is. What does winning look like to me? And to go out and do the things that work to get that result. See, most people there's a word called automaticity, and that is in an automatic way of being, right? They're not operating from any context. So I'm operating always from the context of, how can I be my best self? How can I bring my best self? What do I want to achieve in this particular instance? And how can I go and get it? What do I need to do that?
So how would you figure out, like, once you see what, like, you have your goal, and then how do you build the plan based around that goal? Like, once you have that intention?
Yeah, good question. So for me, understanding what I want, and a lot of it comes natural to me. It comes by asking questions. So if I want to accomplish being the top person in my industry, I would find out exactly what it takes to do that. I would find out the actual number that I need somewhere, specifically. Build a plan for getting there. Figure out what I'm prepared to do to get, to hit that target. Understand what my target market is, what my average case size is, and then backtrack it. Like, how many days a year do I want to work? How much do I need to make each year? How many people do I need to help? So it goes into a lot of questions. I think it's something that comes natural to me, is problem solving. That is, I think, my why. One of my big whys is, and one of my greatest gifts that God gave me was my ability to solve complex problems for myself and for other people. And I do that obviously in the area of financial services, including tax minimization, wealth creation. However, as well, as you know, I'm a coach as well, and I help people with complex problems in their lives.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Do you think like, so actually here, let me ask this question instead. Obviously, to get what you want, like when you have a really big goal, there's a lot of things that you have to give up to get to that goal. And I had a coach that said to me, there's no such thing as sacrifices, there's only choices, because you have to choose like what's more important to you, basically, like what do you actually want. I guess, what are some of the things that you've had to give up to, or the choices you've had to make to achieve what you really want?
Yeah, so you can't be everything to everyone, and you can't do everything, right? So you have to really focus on what you want. Winning is understanding what you want and being focused, driven, and doing the work that's required to do that. And as you know, I learned a lot from one of our mentors, Tim Grover, in what I need to delete, what I need to give up. So some things that I need to give up are really everything. You've got to be someone that's willing to go to work on yourself and see what your shortcomings are. They say, smart people know what their strengths are. I think even more intelligent people know what their weaknesses are. So understanding that, certain things that within inside of you that you have that slow you down and hold you back from reaching your full potential, and noticing these, Tim, as you read the wonderful book Winning, with his co-author Sherry Wank, also an incredible human being in her own right, wrote an entire chapter in the book called Winning. And that chapter is Winning Wages War in the Battlefield of Our Minds. And, we all have these self-imposed bombs that get in our way of reaching our full potential. So those are some things that we need to give up. We might have to give up some relationships along the way, some relationships that are not assisting us in our full potential and what our end result is. We might have to give up some trauma from our past. We might have to give up, some people fall victim to their circumstances. They have to give that up. Might have to give up insecurity, right? It's always going to be with us, but dealing with it and understanding that it comes and is a part of who we are allows us to put it by the wayside to go out and get, that win that we want. It's lots of things, right? It's I had to give up some weight on my journey. I had to let go of some extra pounds that were holding me back, right? But there's also other weight. There's emotional weight that we have to give up. Part of my success was having a chip on my shoulder, right? Resentments and all those times that people telling me I can't do it and I'm not enough and the rest of it. And that gets you to a certain place, but then you've got to get to another level, and then you got to see if that's working for you, and if it's not, you got to give it up. See, what I have is I have a hierarchy, right? And at the top of the hierarchy, most people have a belief higher than themselves. Well, my belief is that God put me on this planet to win, solve problems, and help other people win. So at the top of that hierarchy, my highest self is winning. So winning will dictate what I need to give up. The end result will dictate what I need to give up along the way to get to where I'm going.
What are some things you've done to expose some of those minds? Like, because obviously we're talking about the winning wages war on the battlefield of your mind. And obviously there's all these bombs and little mines that maybe we don't see. So what have you done to expose some of those things for yourself and figure out like, okay, this is something that's holding me back, or something I need to delete or get rid of?
Yeah, so I've had to do a lot of internal work, understanding what I want, understanding why I haven't gotten it,
Mm-hmm.
and noticing what has stopped me. And then people often ask me, "What's the most important ingredient of success?" Right? And we know that it's not one answer. It's not one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's many things that it takes to be successful, and it's really everything. Right?
Mm-hmm.
However, one of the most important things is honesty, the ability to be honest with yourself, right? Because you can fake a lot of things. You can fake success, you can fake happiness, and this is what I learned from Tim as well, and other mentors as well. You can fake so much, but you can never fake yourself out. You know the real answers to everything. So it's important to understand that, and to be able to be honest with yourself and what your shortcomings are, understanding what's getting in the way of you getting this result, not from a place of beating yourself up, not from a place of being hard on yourself, more from a place of like, look, we need to get the job done and we need to get up here, or right now we're here. How do we get up to here to be able to get this result? What stopped me in the past? You know, you can get access to this by asking people you trust. And it's critical that these are people that are in a trusted position, that you've put in that position, that have earned your trust, because they'll tell you the truth. They'll give you the information that you need, the information that's going to make you better. Like, we're surrounded in a group of what we call allies. Again, in Tim Grover and Sherry Wanks down in Dirty Group. And those are the people that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, right? Because most people in life are going to say, "Hey, Andrew, you're doing great, man. Don't change anything. You're awesome just the way you are," right? And at that level, that might make you feel good for a little while, right? Oh yeah, everybody likes a compliment, but is that really going to help you get to another level? Right? So it's sometimes the people that we don't want in our lives, that upset us, that tick something off on us. Those are the most valuable people to have around, because they're going to tell you the truth, and they're going to tell you what's missing and what you're doing to get you the next level. Another practice that I use is I will ask myself the question of what's missing after I get a result, and it's not the result I want. What's missing that if I added into my repertoire, would have gotten me the result I need? Right? So I really inspect that and see what could I have done differently? What can I add? Where do I need to get to? Because if you did, we'll keep it simple, 100,000 in production 1 year, and the next year you want to do 500,000, you can't come with the same mind that made you 100,000. You've got to get better, right? You've got to elevate and grow and get better, because doing the same things that you did last year are generally going to get you pretty close to the same results. You might get a break or two here or there. You might have something that works against you here or there. But generally speaking, if you show up the same as you did the year before, you're going to get generally the same results.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I remember you said something earlier as well about how, because I guess I'm thinking, so you had like the little hierarchy thing that you're talking about, and you said that you had that chip on your shoulder and it took you to a certain level, but eventually you had to, I guess, find like a higher calling than just that chip on your shoulder. But do you think that we need something like that to start us off, like a chip on our shoulder, or do you think we can start off with that higher calling if you don't have something like? Because I feel like there's some people who really haven't had like that much of a difficult life, or haven't had that many like haters or doubters or whatever you want to call it, and maybe they don't have something like that chip on their shoulder. Maybe they just, yeah, that all they have is maybe like a kind of a higher calling, or they have an idea of what they want to do, or what they feel like their purpose is. Do you feel like you can almost skip that step of having that extra chip on your shoulder and go straight to that higher calling, or do you think that you need something to kind of like slowly get you to like the next level, like step by step kind of?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is, it depends.
Hmm.
It depends on who you are. It depends on what your experiences are. It depends how far you want to get to. But what I will tell you is, in learning over 30 years of self-development, working with many other great mentors, reading hundreds of books, studying to be a seminar leader and motivational speaker in my mid-30s, doing extensive training to do that, is that in a world of helping people for the last 25 years with solving problems, is that everybody has their own recipe for success. And the people that have the greatest achievements and have created the greatest success in their life, they just use everything. They use everything. So, they use setbacks, they use disappointment, they use darkness, they use happiness, they use anger, they use resentment, frustration, failing.
So how do you figure out that recipe for yourself? Like what do you have to do?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. You've got to create it for yourself. You have to go back and understand what this taught you. See, I had a situation when I was 4 years old. I got into a car. I snuck away from my parents. I got into a vehicle. And back then, they didn't have the security of, not the security brake, but there was a security level of security where you can't get the car into neutral. Back then, you could. And I pumped on the emergency brake, and I ended up driving down the street, down a hill.
Oh,
I waved to my parents, bye-bye, mom and dad, see you later. My mother had passed out on the balcony. My dad was trying to chase me. Somehow, I was heading straight into a house, actually our cousin's house. I somehow turned the wheel, made a left-hand turn at 3 years old, or it was between 3 and 4. I don't know the exact age, but it was between 3 and 4 because we tracked the house we lived in, and we tracked the year, the time frame. And I somehow turned into a house where there was new construction. So there was no foundation up, nothing, just a bunch of mud and a little hill, and the car stopped. And I obviously lived. So I asked myself, what did this teach me? And what's my purpose? What's my meaning? Why am I here? So in understanding that, I understood that I can get myself out of any situation. I can solve any problem. I can deal with anything that comes my way. If as a 3-year-old, I had the ability to, without knowing how to drive, get in a car, drive it, and save myself, I have the ability to deal with anything. I can solve any problem. I can figure it out. I always have a way to figure things out. And no matter what life throws at me, I'm going to take that and I'm going to learn how to figure it out and learn how to win with it. Learn how to create my own success based on what comes my way. So there's nothing that can stop me. The only thing that can stop me is myself or death, right? The end of our race. We don't know when our race is over. We don't know when our time is up. But having that ability and understanding that God gave me life It's also understanding the odds of being born into this world. You hear me talk about this a lot, are 1 in 400 trillion.
Yeah.
1 in 400 trillion that we were born into this world. Why us? Why do we meet? What,
Yeah.
like, why? Like, we're just a bunch of people walking around on this planet. Why were we all put here?
Yeah.
What's our end goal?
That is crazy to think about. I mean, it almost makes it seem like it's so obvious. Like, of course we have a purpose here. If that was our chance was so slim, like we're not here by accident, obviously. There
Yeah,
has to be a reason.
we're here. I have a belief in a higher power, and I have a belief that every single human being on this planet has a very special gift and a purpose for being on this planet. And once you come to understand that, once you come to realize that, that's when you can get connected to your higher purpose, and that's when the magic starts to happen. It's understanding that and then connecting to that every day, connecting to that every day of your life to be able to produce the things that you were meant to produce on this earth. Right? We all have a special gift. And I keep mentioning Tim, but he's had such a massive impact on my life. Right? It's connecting to ourselves, like whatever that time was that we're running away from, whatever that hurt was, that pain, that struggle, that time where we felt defeated and we felt like we couldn't get up off the mat. It's connecting to those times to understand that those things happen for a reason, and what are you going to do with them? Because in life, all there is your end result, and you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. So if you're going to get it, you have to learn to be able to use everything to get that win. Right? You got to be able to use everything that's thrown your way.
Yeah, that's true. And that makes me think, because whenever I was training to be a national champion in swimming, I remember I was like the only guy on my team. Like my team, I had some people that were like pretty, like I call them killers, but there's also a lot of people who were just there for like the scholarship and just to kind of like pay their way through school, and they didn't take swimming quite as seriously. But for myself, obviously, you know me, I took swimming extremely seriously, and I would wake up like every day. We'd have that 5 a.m. practice. I was like so fired up, like I'd wake up with energy every single day. And a lot of people are like, how are you so motivated all the time and things like that? And it's like, I don't feel like necessarily motivated. Like it's obviously it's discipline, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like my purpose is, one, to reach my highest potential, and then two, to help others reach their highest potential, basically, and inspire others to be the best at what they want to do. And I guess my goal of being national champion is obviously tied into that. And how can I inspire other people, if I'm not doing it myself as well? And so I feel like that's what gave me the energy to, get up every morning at 5 a.m. and like training 32 hours a week even, and like just really doing everything I could. Even though I didn't become national champion, unfortunately, I didn't quite hit my goal. Actually, I ran out of time because I was still improving constantly. But yeah, I mean, I always say this: if there's anyone that trained to be a national champion that didn't quite get there, like it was definitely me. Like no one, I don't believe anyone worked harder than me and trained to be a national champion more than I did.
Well, Andrew, you're a unique guy, in my opinion. We all have a special gift, and you've shared some of your dark times and dark moments, and for you to have the level of mindset. I'm around a lot of people with extremely high levels of mindset, and rarely do I see someone your age have the mental strength and abilities that you have to go out and produce results, but also who you are as a person, what you're committed to, what you spend your time doing, your level of focus. I don't see that often in someone your age. So, God gave you some gifts as well, and he threw some roadblocks your way to amplify who you are and amplify your purpose in life. So it's going back and looking at those situations and drawing everything you can out of those to give you the power and fuel and strength to continue to focus on your purpose, who you are, why you were put here, what message you're to deliver to other people, right? And it looks like you're well on your way to that path.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely trying to pursue that as much as I can, obviously, through this podcast, especially through this podcast, is try to reach as many people as I can and interview people with either inspiring stories or who've had a lot of success in their industries and sharing that knowledge with the world to try to help everyone else reach their highest potential. So that's like the purpose of the podcast.
Well, that's why I did this, that's why I did this. Time and energy and the rest of it is real important to me. So, but when I see someone out there doing something special and working hard and trying to achieve something, I try to help them out too. So,
yeah, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I know also we've talked about this before, is you do a lot of journaling. And so I'd love for you to dive deeper on how you journal and I guess, like, I know you obviously you ask yourself questions and then you journal about them, but yeah, I guess just dive deeper in on that.
Sure. So, I'm thinking all the time. I spend a lot of time with me and this, me and my thoughts. I can be in a room with people and thinking some thought. And the key is to, when you have a key thought that's almost, I don't want to say it's a breakthrough always, because not everything's a breakthrough. A breakthrough is, you have to really be trained in understanding how to create a breakthrough, right? You have to be able to step outside of yourself, to see yourself, and to acknowledge, what's not been working. And there's a whole formula for producing a breakthrough, and you can't do it by trying. That I can tell you. So much of success is counterintuitive. We hear so many things out there, advice and to do this and to do that. And I would say, I would tell people that if you generally do the opposite of what everybody tells you to do, your chance of success is far greater than if you went and did what everybody tells you to do.
Dude, that's so relatable, actually. That's so relatable.
My thinking is counterintuitive, right? Like, there's so much information out there. Why are 85% of people, like, there's financial information out there, why are 85% of people either dead or broke by the time they're 75 years old in North America? Right? I mean, if we listen to that information, we're going to be like the other 75%. Right. So then we have to question, like, is the information out there accurate? So one of the things I learned is I question everything. I question if someone says something, is that true or not? If someone gives me advice, is that true or not? So I have a very inquisitive mind that's nonstop. It's always going. So for journaling, what I need to do is, when I have a thought, I put it down. So I have an iPhone, and I make notes in my iPhone. I'll make notes on paper. Whenever I have a call with someone, I'm taking notes. Journaling's important. I often review my journaling, right? I review my notes. I created a vision blueprint for how I want to run my professional financial advisory, how my staff should be conducting themselves, how I should be conducting myself, my higher purpose, what our vision and focus is, and reviewing those daily, like even twice a day. I keep it by my bedside, my notes. I review them at night. I review them first thing in the morning, because I need to understand who I am, what I want, what my intention is, and where I'm going. And if you can create that direction in your life at all times and know where you're going, know what you want and know where you're going, but be realistic. Be realistic as to what you're prepared to give up to go to where you want to go to, because there's always a cost in doing that. Right? So understanding that and being realistic with that, journaling it and reviewing the journal is what's going to help you get to your, get your end result or get your win, whatever that is, in whatever area of life that is.
Mm-hmm. Do you use a lot of affirmations as well, like whether you journal them or just say them to yourself?
So, like I'm great or something like that. You mean like,
Yeah, like I'm the best, like at like in my industry, or like I'm amazing at whatever I do, like things like that.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily do stuff like that. When I'm playing golf, there's always, we have these little voices that pop into our head.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found works for me is understanding. See, the opposite, they say that whatever causes, they say that resistance causes persistence, right? So resistance of means not allowing something, not letting it in, right? So instead of pushing it away, I allow a lot in. I allow it in, I allow it to come and go, but I also acknowledge that voices are not true usually. You have to identify them and understand where that voice came from, who it is, etc., because it's not always your own. Mm-hmm. So this is going to sound real flaky and weird, but it's understanding how this organ called our brain works. And we have lots of thoughts all the time. And some of those thoughts are not our own. Some of those thoughts have been put there from childhood, like our parents. My parents were incredibly well-intentioned, outstanding, parents in terms of providing and wanting the best for me and teaching me that I could go after what I wanted as long as I was willing to work for it, all that stuff. But they might say things like, Cory, don't burn your bridges, or Cory, don't, respect your elders, or whatever is there, right? Go, and you should respect your elders. I'm not disagreeing with that, but there's certain things. What if your elders are disrespectful to you? What if you're in a position of where you need to, garner your own self-respect and stand up for yourself. So not everything is hard and fast, but it's understanding, what to use in what situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sorry, I'm just processing all this. That was really good. What do you feel like are, because maybe there isn't an answer to this question, but
sure, hit me up.
Okay, so what do you feel like is something like, is there something unique in every successful person that makes them successful, or do you think there's like just a lot of commonalities that is what is equal to their success?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of common denominators among greatly successful people. But I also believe that there's some unique things with each human being. Everybody has a special gift and a special skill set, something that they could be the best at literally in the world, something that, that they're really good at. My ability is the ability to help people solve problems, the ability to solve complex problems, and the ability to teach people how to solve complex problems as well. This is my unique ability and my unique skill. Everybody has their own. And I think that, the where you find out what your unique skill is and ability is by going back to the dark places, to visit those places that we don't want to deal with, the thing that causes us hurt and pain and, could even be torment or frustration, whatever that is for you, whatever that dark place is for you that you don't want to go to, that's the first place you need to go to. Because the thing is if you don't go to those places, it'll constantly be there all the time in your life. And, you know, successful people have this in common. They have a confidence in themselves. They have a confidence that no matter what's going on, no matter how they feel in their life, no matter they could feel absolutely awful, but if they committed to doing something and they have a purpose and a result that they want, they know that they can do whatever it takes to achieve that result. And they're willing to do the things that most other people are not willing to do. Right? Anytime that you've hit a big target or a big goal, you did a whole bunch of stuff that most people would not do. Right? Most human beings get sidetracked by roadblocks. They give up easily. You know, they're not feeling great one day. They mail it in, take the day off.
Right.
You know, something happens in their relationship. Oh, they don't show up for the next thing. Right. And what happens is things pile up day after day after day. So if you don't take care of things every day, you know, what you need to take care of and what's in front of you, pretty soon you got a huge pile of a mess. And that's what creates chaos, is not having dealt with the things from the previous day. And all of a sudden, all those days add up. But it's successful people continue doing things. They go out and do the things that they need to do to deal with the areas of life that they want to excel at. You know, whether it's drop 20 pounds, right? Well, what do you do to drop 20 pounds? You got to eat less and you got to move more, right? There's a whole bunch of information out there about it, but the bottom line is if you don't do those things, no matter what you do, you're not going to lose weight. Right. You know, if you want to make, you know, $1 million a year in your business, you have to do the things and deliver the products and services to the people so that you can get paid for that. You have to do that in a way in which they're willing to pay, and a lot of people are willing to pay. So you have to create that for yourself and go out and do those things. I mean, a lot of people that are successful, they have very high standards. They have high standards for themselves, who they work with, who they surround themselves with, in every area of life. So, you know, the answer is both. We each have our own secret recipe to create success, but we also have a lot of commonalities in other areas. Right? So it just takes, like Tim summed it up so good. You know, and Kobe Bryant, winning takes everything, and it just takes everything inside of you, because it takes understanding, here's how I put this here to win with this. No, this thing is already inside me. It's like other people, but it helps me win. You know, now, no, winning has changed the code. Now I have to change this. What worked last week no longer works. How do I implement this to get this result? It's just, it's a series of just, you know, inner conversations and inner thoughts and inner solutions and recipes to create your own success. You've got to have trust. You got to have trust in yourself as well. There's so many factors. Like if you asked me the key to my success, there's so many factors. It's everything. It's all my experiences. It's all even my traumas, my alter egos, my personalities, my shortcomings, you know, because you can win with insecurity, right? Like, you know, Andrew said I couldn't do it, I'll show him, right? But then the next week, that may no longer work, right? So you got to switch it up. Now it's got to be for some other thing, right? So you could take everything except we don't want, human beings, we don't want these bad feelings and we don't want hard times. We don't want to go back and look at our past. We don't want to deal with failure. We don't want all these things, but we don't realize that these are the things that make us successful. If
That's true.
Yeah, if you had, you know, if I had some of the situations work out the way that I wanted them to in life, I would not be nearly as successful as I am,
Mm.
because I wouldn't have what that situation gave me.
Mm.
You know, going through, going through trauma and going through difficult times, it helps you to create a different version of yourself, a different version of yourself to deal with that pain and trauma and the rest of it. And when you take that trauma from the dark and you bring it into the light, you now have a different part of yourself that you didn't have before.
Mm.
Right? Because you had to do certain things to survive some of the things in your childhood. And those things that you did to survive those things in your childhood, you now have as a tool in your arsenal to use for other things.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And in knowing that, and knowing that your shortcomings and your scars and your wounds and your insecurities and all the stuff that people want to run away from and don't want to face, those are the things that you need to run to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even yeah.
So I guess, I'm sure you know this about me. I'm like a huge Mike Tyson fan. I like him and Kobe Bryant are like my top two guys, and I'm curious on your perspective on this. So obviously Mike Tyson, he had a pretty like insane childhood. Like he was arrested, I think like 30 something times by the age of 12, and he was always getting into trouble, things like that. His like parents, like were, I believe, like prostitutes, like his mom was or something like that. And do you think if, let's say for example, when he was like in his prime, if he would have gone to therapy and tried to deal with those problems, do you think that would have taken away from him having the success that he had in boxing?
Probably. I mean, Mike Tyson's gift was controlled rage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that got Mike Tyson into trouble is that lack of control of his rage.
Right.
So Mike Tyson his mindset, in my opinion, was kill or be killed.
Right.
Kill or be killed. Attack or be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I believe to some degree when he got in that ring, he was fighting for his life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you have that kind of fear and rage and anger inside of you, you can move mountains with that. Now the key is, and this is the key with everything. You asked me my second biggest, most important thing of everything for success: control.
Yeah. Being
Being able to control all of it. So you've got to know what's controlling you and then control it.
Mm-hmm.
And, this very same things that made Mike Tyson incredible are the very same things that brought him down and got him arrested, like you said, 20 times, that got him in trouble with his ex-wife, Robin Givens.
Right.
That got him in trouble in the airplane when he punched that guy in the head.
Mm-hmm.
That got him into trouble time after time after time. Is, we all have a dark side, as we learned from our mentor.
Right.
We all have a dark side, but that dark side can't control us. We have to control it.
Right.
Right. And when we can mastering controlling it is what's going to get us our results. So that's another thing about, taking everything, right? It's a great example of taking our pain and our anger, because anger is another thing, and anger can work for us or it can work against us. And it's very hard to use anger to win with. It's very, very hard. You have to have real control.
Yeah.
There's rage that's uncontrolled, like a burning inferno, and you have to learn how to control how the fire burns and the flame. I myself, I was known to have a bit of a temper, be reactionary, right? I've got a lot of emotion inside of me,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until I could learn how to control that emotion and control how that flame burns and decide when I want to light my own fire, when I want to keep it lit. You never pour gasoline on it, but you want to, increase the flame a little bit.
Mhm.
It's understanding that and being able to control it all. That's the difference, right?
Mhm.
Because all these tools are important, right? But if they're not controlled properly, they can burn into a raging inferno, and that doesn't help anyone,
Right.
right? That helps you lose. That helps you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, I mean, for myself personally, I feel like I'm very good about controlling my emotions. But I remember when I was a kid and I was still learning how to do that, I wasn't always the best, obviously, at controlling my emotions. And the times that I made the worst decisions were when I was really, really, really pissed off. And then most of the time when we act out of rage or anger, it's usually what is the word for it? Like it's more reactive. That's what I'm looking for. It's reactive, and
Yeah,
there's not as much thought that goes into it.
it's emotion based, right? And emotion, unfortunately, does not lead to a lot of good decisions. I mean, if any,
Hmm.
right? So it's like you've got to think with your mind,
Hmm.
and you've got to think with your brain,
Hmm.
your intellect, your intelligence. There's a part of your brain that's in your heart that requires emotion, but I would say that that's more instinctual.
Yeah.
It's more gut instinct sort of thing. Like me doing this podcast, that's
Hmm.
acting with my instinctual part of myself,
Hmm.
right? It's relationships, right?
Hmm.
When you find that first love, that's instinctual.
Right.
That's not like, well, let me see, does she line up? There's an aspect of that after a while, right? Like,
Hmm.
when you first connect with one, there's an instinctual aspect to that with our hearts and whatever, and then emotion comes in, and you're like, but if she's terrible for you, like, let's say have an incredible growth mindset, but she likes comfort.
Hmm.
Is that really going to work out? Like logically, let's say you're a non-smoker and a health freak, and she likes fried food, laying on the couch and smoking 24 cigarettes a day, right?
Hmm.
So then that's when the intellect comes in and says, yeah, well, so,
Yeah.
but if you allow your emotion to take over, you'll be doing stuff that's not good for yourself and ultimately leading to an end result that's going to be a loss for you and for her.
Hmm.
So there's lots of aspects to our mind, and control is a very important aspect to getting results.
Hmm. Definitely. So, Corey, I'm gonna wrap this up. But before I do this, so at the end of every podcast, I ask three questions. They're kind of like speed questions. But before I get to those, I just want to ask if there's anything else that you want to leave people with, or you want to say before we get into those.
No, I enjoy this, buddy. I mean, if anybody's listening out there and wants to take their success to a higher level, increase your standards and do everything. Use everything you can to create success for yourself. Use it all. Whatever you're running from, run to,
Hmm. Love
and
it.
use that. Create it as a vehicle for success for yourself.
Hmm. Awesome. So, Corey, you ready for these speed questions?
Sure, hit me up.
Alrighty. So some of them they may not be as like speedy, just because there's a lot of answers that probably are going to pop into your mind, and you'll see what I mean in a sec. But first question is, what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten that's impacted you the most?
Do everything. Experience everything. That comes from Tim Grover. Do it all. Experience it all and do everything you can, because we don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. So do it
Awesome.
all.
Yes. And then, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote and why: tough times don't last, tough people do.
Yes.
Why I like that quote is because no matter where you are, just try to win. Try to win with however you're feeling. Everything. I mean, those times will come and they'll go. They don't just stay there forever. When you're riding high, that's not going to last forever either. Stay grounded, stay humble. A friend of mine taught me how to live in humility and to, not believe the hype when it comes my way. When I'm down, understand that will pass too, and use those times to, and those tough times to gain momentum and to walk forward, even though you may not know where you're walking, keep walking anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. And then last question, and I feel like I know your answer, is what book do you recommend everyone should read?
Oh, without a doubt, my answer to that. It's 2 books, because I always like to give more. I always like to give more than I'm asked. So the first book is Relentless by Tim Grover and Sherry Wank. And the second book is Winning by Tim Grover and Sherry Wank.
Awesome. So you guys, if you guys have listened to multiple episodes, I'm sure you guys have heard these books been recommended before. So you guys should definitely check them out if you haven't already. And I'm sure it's going to come up more in other podcasts. So if you guys haven't read them, you're missing out, because there's a lot of good stuff in those books. And then, Cory, where can people find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, the best way to find me is info@budovitch.ca. So info@budovitch, BUDOVITCH.ca. I'm also on Instagram at cbudovitch, CBUDOVITCH.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put those also in the description so people can click on it or find you easier that way as well. But yeah, Cory, thank you again for hopping on the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you and having you as a guest.
My pleasure, buddy. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.